Before you begin watching this video, I would like to point out that this is a video log of my first DIY attempt at installing a Chinese diesel heater on my boat. It is not intended as an instructional video of how you should install one.
Good afternoon, it's sorry, I forgot.
Take 2.
Good afternoon, it's Tuesday the 13th of October 2020 and we've come over to the Swamp Duck this afternoon to continue or at least complete the installation of the diesel heater. I've had the diesel heater working now for quite some time and it has been very good, very successful, and it keeps the boat really nice and warm. But I've been waiting for ages and ages for a kit to come so that I can put in some extra vents. They were ordered on a well-known site and they just failed to materialise, and after quite an exchange of emails I finally gave up and they refunded me the money. So I had to find another supplier, and in actual fact I found a supplier that can only be a few miles away and it came within a couple of days. So I'm happy to announce that I've got the kit, and basically it's 2 of these. So I've got some more ducting tube and then 2 of these, so I've got 2 more proper outlets, so they're going to be installed. And this was the crucial part, was to have a Y junction so I can then divert the heat into different directions, and then it comes with the cheap Chinese Jubilee clips, but I think these are okay for what I need them for. So that's what I intend to do today. I just want to complete that, and then I'll do a quick review of the installation and how it's worked. So off to work. So at the moment the tube has been going through here and through this cupboard and then out of the cupboard door. So what I need to do now is to have the Y junction somewhere here so that I can have one tube going onto the deck, and then that will go into the cuddy. So the first thing to do is to use my trusty template to mark off where, roughly speaking, want to have this vent. So I'm going to put it just here. Okay, so I'm using my train robbery method of cutting this out. So having made the holes, I'm now going to use a pad saw to go around and cut the shape out.
So just one more to do. As I mentioned in previous vlogs, I saw this method on an old black and white film about a train robbery. I don't know what the film is, but maybe if you know, you could drop me a comment in the comment section below. Hooray. So that's the collar of the grid, so I put that in there, and then it's just got 3 little screw holes. A couple of them will do. So I've got a couple of screws in, I just need to slot this on the top. So that's on. This can actually be turned, so it can be turned in different directions, but I think it'd probably be as well doing it like that. And at least being like this, you won't knock it with your feet. So the next thing is to attach this Y joint. Now the diameter of that is exactly the same as the diameter of the outlet of the heater. So what I need to do is to make a little collar, and I'm going to use some of this tubing to make a collar, so I can put some of that on there and then that there and join it with a piece of that. So this actually cuts quite easily, it's just got a paper effect inside. Just got to make sure you clip the wire at the end. So I just need to tighten a Jubilee clip here so that it's going to keep these 2 bits together. So I've just finished that off by just wrapping around some of this aluminium tape so that none of the hot air escapes around the joints. So this is the ducting pipe that will take the warm air into the cuddy. So I just need to wrap some of this around here and put another Jubilee clip on just there. So that makes quite a nice seal just there. Just need to put another one here. So there we have the Y junction. So that's the ducting that goes into the cuddy, and this is the ducting that comes onto the deck, and it comes out on this side here at this grill. So it's going to keep us nice and warm while we're driving the boat, and that's going to keep us nice and warm in the evening time. Right, so the next thing I have to do is to install the outlet in the cuddy here. So I'm not going to mark it off again using my trusty template, and then for the last time use my train rubber technique. Actually easy. I can't remember the film exactly, but what I do remember is that they had to get the compartment next to the guard's van, or the where the money was kept. And basically, they then pulled the blinds down, and then they took the seat out of the back, and then they drilled a series of holes like this, obviously a lot bigger, so that one of them could crawl through and pass the money through the hole. And if I remember rightly, I think they got disturbed by a guard who coming around for the tickets. I'm not sure they didn't have to restrain him and tie him up or something like that, and it went a bit wrong in the end. So there's the collar, just need to put some screws in. So there's the ducting pipe, which has been well sealed up at the end there with this aluminium tape, and it's making an effective airing cupboard because the pipe is quite warm, and we tend to keep some of the pillows and bedding in this side, so that's going to keep them nice and warm and dry. So I want to talk a little bit about my experience of installing the diesel heater, how much it actually cost, and just whether it's any good or not. I'm filming at the moment and the heater is on, so I'm just going to pause for a minute and see if you can hear it. There's a very, very tiny little thud of the pump, and you'd really have to know what you're listening to. The clock actually makes more noise, and I don't notice that. I have got the cuddy door closed, and if I go onto the deck you can hear a little bit more of the fan. But I've got a heater similar to this in the caravan, which is obviously an electric one, but you can hear the pump, probably the fan on that, more than you can on this one. The reason I wanted to install this kind of heating was because, having moved the boat from the River Trent, where I wasn't able to use it very much during the autumn and the winter because of flooding, I'm now on the Ashby Canal, and hopefully I can get out on the boat a lot more. But GRPs can be very, very cold, and they are very damp sometimes, you know, they get a lot of condensation. So I wanted a heat that was a dry heat, and so I went for the diesel heater option. I must say I was a little bit terrified of actually installing it because it did look a bit complex. I looked at an awful lot of YouTube videos and people that had already installed them, but what I would say is there's a big difference between installing such a heater on a camper van or a caravan than there is on a boat. Now, I specifically looked very hard. The one that I bought does actually say that it is suitable for a boat, which is probably why I went for this particular one. But I have to say, the kit on its own without adjustment isn't. The actual heater unit is fine. It's all the other bits that you need to think about, and a lot of it you need to discard and change. When I was thinking about doing this, I spoke to one of the boat safety certificate inspectors and asked him what kind of things I would need to change in order to make the thing pass through a boat safety certificate. And the one thing that he did tell me was that I needed to change the fuel line. That would be one of the things that they would look for, because the fuel line that is supplied with the heater is a very thin plastic tubing. Its diameter, internal diameter, is something like 2 millimeters, so it's quite tiny, and that isn't suitable for a boat. It's all to do with the amount of time you have got to escape somewhere should there be a problem. Obviously, if you're in a caravan and there's some problem, you just would open the door and run. But on a boat, it's not so easy. You could be in the middle of somewhere, and you know, you've got to get off the boat, you've got to get to the bank, it's going to take you a whole lot longer. So this safety thing is based on the amount of time it would take a flame to burn through the fuel line, because obviously once it hits the fuel line, burns through it, whole thing's going to go up with a bit of a bang. So that's what it's all about. It's minimizing the risk, but it's also maximizing the amount of time you would have to escape a boat if there was a problem. From a cost point of view, the actual kit was just over £100. I think it was £109, something like that. But that isn't the end of it, it's just the start of it. You do need to spend a whole lot more, and I would estimate that the installation now has probably got to about £400, and I think that's probably what it would cost, depending on the type of boat that you've got and how difficult it is to route the fuel lines and the air ducts. On this boat, being quite small, it wasn't that difficult, but even so I did have to replace certain things. So as I've said, the fuel line, now that isn't expensive. I got it from something like some company, something like Hose World, and it was so much a metre, and it was a negligible amount. It actually cost more in postage than it did for the length of the line, so that wasn't a problem. Probably the most expensive thing I had to buy was the Eberspacher outlet for the exhaust, because you cannot obviously just poke an exhaust pipe through a fiberglass shell. It's just going to melt. So you do need the proper outlet, and the one that I found on eBay was an Eberspacher, and that was within the region of £40–50, something like that. I also replaced the exhaust pipe itself, or at least I added to it, and I bought the proper Eberspacher. That was within the region of £30 or £40, I think. I can't honestly remember. I've bought so many different things. But that was well worth it, because it made the installation a lot easier. The exhaust pipe that came with it wasn't fantastic. I have used it, but only right at the end. Then the other thing that I had to buy was the muffler. The muffler that came with it, I've seen various pieces of advice where people have adapted the one that came with it by using sealer and all the rest of it. But when I looked into the difference in cost between messing around with the one that came with it and trying to make it properly sealed, and actually buying a proper marine one, there wasn't a question I was going to buy the marine one. It was just a matter of sourcing it. I found it on eBay in the end, and it didn't take that long to come. And as soon as you open the package, you can just tell the difference in the quality of the product. The marine one is a lot heavier, it's a lot bigger, it's solid, and it hasn't got any joins that are going to let any harmful fumes come out at all. It just was the right thing for the job. So I'm glad that I did that in the end. There are a couple of other things that I added myself because I was a little bit concerned about the safety of it. One thing I've added is to put a master switch. So before anything gets connected to the battery, it has to go through a master switch. So I bought a fairly substantial switch, so until that is put on, nothing's going to work. I felt that was important because somebody said with the model that I've got, it's got a little key fob, and just press it. You can sit in the cuddy and press it, and the heating will come on. So it's obviously works off sort of Wi-Fi signal type of thing. Now, if somebody comes past in another boat and they just so happen to have something working with the same signal, they could potentially turn your heating on and off, which is not really what you want. So I wanted to be sure that when I leave the boat it's off, and it's going to stay off. So I've put a switch in. And then similarly with the fuel line, I wanted to know that once I'd left the boat, the fuel was off, and if something happened to the fuel line, I don't know, if a joint came undone or whatever with the movement of the boat and so forth, anything could happen. I wanted to know that that fuel line was off and no fuel could leak into the boat while I'm not around. So there were two things. Getting the little switch for the fuel line took quite a bit of research, and in the end it came from Amazon and it came from China or somewhere like that. It didn't take that long to get here, but that's given me a bit more peace of mind, so that when I leave the boat I know the electric's turned off and I know the fuel's turned off. And obviously it's also helpful if you're going to do any maintenance and you're going to have to change fuel lines or whatever, you can actually isolate the fuel. Now there are a couple of things that I haven't done which I could do. Bear in mind all the installations on my boat have passed the boat safety certificate, and I have a boat safety certificate for the next 4 years. So I'm not too concerned about what's on there because I know it's okay, but there are a few things there that I could change just to make them a little bit ultra safe. The fuel tank is the plastic one that came with the kit. Now I have been told that they can deteriorate in sunlight. Now it's at the back of the boat, it's actually not exposed to the sunlight, it's got a cover on the top of it, all the rest of it, but that's something to bear in mind. And I have looked at how I could change that, and there are lots of options. There are some fairly slimline fuel tanks that I could get, some like jerry can type things which I could adapt. So that's something that I might look at in the next few months, and you're talking probably another £20 to do that. So that's not a huge cost. It's just a matter of getting the right size for the boat, because one thing I am struggling for, obviously, on a boat this size is room. I have to maximise the room. So that's one thing I can possibly look at. The other thing is the fuel filter. Now I was informed that it needed to be a metal one. That's slightly incorrect, because on the boat safety it does actually say that it can be plastic, but it's got to be of the right type. So I might change the fuel filter and buy a metal one, or one that's got stainless steel and glass. Again, not over expensive and not a massive job to do. It's just a matter of swapping them around, really. Now that I've got the thing installed and all the ducting is done, all of that kind of infrastructure is there. So changing odd little parts to make it absolutely 100% isn't going to be a problem. The one thing I have to say is I'm sitting here and we're in the middle of October. It's not that cold today, but on the boat, when it's been sitting here for a few days, can be a bit chilly. I only had the heater on for half an hour and the boat is lovely and warm. There's just a nice gentle flow of warm air coming around my feet, and the cuddy on this boat doesn't take very much to warm up anyway. Benefits of it is going to be with condensation, because often when I come, these windows are just streaming with condensation. Half an hour and that condensation has dried up. I've also got the ducting going at the back of the cupboard here where I keep pots and pans and the water container, so that's going to help to stave off that from freezing up. And it also passes through a cupboard here where I keep some of my bedding. So it's almost acting as a little airing cupboard. And the real luxury, I suppose, is the fact that I've got heating on the deck. So when I'm driving along the Ashby Canal and it's a bit inclement, I've still got heat. So that's probably one time I'm not going to be jealous of people stood on the back of a narrow boat. So I'm just going to go through each part, just show you the parts of that I've installed and the installation, and if you decide to get one, all I can say is have fun. So from a space point of view, the only thing that you can see that's visible in the cuddy is this little vent, which is nice and warm. Just a nice flow of warm air coming through that. That's all you can see. All of the ducting is hidden behind here. It's hidden behind this cupboard. And that is one thing I forgot to say, is that I did purchase initially when I bought the boat, I bought this carbon monoxide alarm, but I've also bought another one which I've put in the box with the heater, and so far neither of them have gone off. Then on the deck, the only things that you can see is the warm air outlet here and the fresh air inlet here. That's all you can see, and the 24-volt switch that I put in. The heating is on, and I'm just going to be quiet for a moment to see if you can actually hear anything. And just as I'm saying this, there's a little plane just going over, so I'll start that again. Okay, so it was a helicopter, but we'll try again. So here we go. So there's just a gentle tapping. It's like a little tapping of the pump, and it's a little bit like the clock. When you get used to it, you won't even notice it. And then there's the fan, and just a gentle rumble of the fan. When the thing first comes on, it sounds like a jet plane starting up. That only lasts for a couple of minutes maximum, and then it just dies down to this gentle noise. When you come to turn it off, you can't just turn it off at the switch. You have to do it properly through the control box here. So you press the off button, and then it does the same sort of thing. It sounds like a jet engine basically coming to a halt. So that is it. As far as fuel is concerned, I've only ever bought 5 litres of diesel, even though the tanks it will hold 10. I've only ever bought 5, and I've used it quite a lot now, and it's probably got 4 left in it. It doesn't seem to use very much at all. So from a cost point of view, it's quite good. As far as sighting the heater is concerned, you do need a bit of room, and it was a good job that I had this side of the boat here with very little in it. So I'll just take the top off, and I'll just show you how much room it does actually take up. So there's the little carbon monoxide detector that I put in. Just wanted to make sure things were okay. And there's the ducting with the new Y junction, and there's the heater. And it still gives me room for my trolley and a few bits and bobs. So that's that side. And now this side, there's the pump at the back of the piece of wood there. There's the filter. This piece of ducting is bringing in fresh air. That's the marine muffler. That is my fuel off and on switch. So when that's closed up, the only thing you can see is the box here I made for the outlet. The exhaust outlet. And I've been feeling around this bit here constantly to see if it gets hot, and it doesn't. It just doesn't. And this is the setup the other side. Each outlet has its own metal collar. I am beginning to get to grips with the controller, and it's quite useful because it has a little indicator there. It tells you how long the thing has been on, and at the moment it is at its lowest setting, and I haven't actually changed that ever. I've never found the need to turn it up. Maybe if it gets really cold I might have to, but it seems quite warm. View out of the cockpit window, and as you can see, the condensation that was here this morning, you wouldn't have been able to see out of this window for it, has all gone. So as far as the installation of a Chinese diesel heater is concerned, I think that will do. I don't really want to do any more videos about it. I'm sure somebody somewhere will find something useful from these vlogs, even if it's this is not how to install it and you've got a much better way. But hey ho. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to making some more cruising videos in the very near future.